Hello and good afternoon to all of you. I am Sushant, today's host for this webinar session. I would like to thank and welcome all the attendees, my colleagues, Managing Director of ACI, Mr. Savin Joshi, and our staff tutor, Mr. Tara Bhatt, to this webinar session titled Understanding GMAT and GRE. Without wasting any time, I would like to begin this session. Okay, for this first part of this session, I would like to request Mr. Savin Joshi, Managing Director of ACIE, to say a few words about ACIE. Savin sir, over to you.
Thank you, Sushant, and a very warm welcome to all the students who are participating in this webinar on GMAT and GRE. So I'll just take a couple of minutes for you to get a little more appreciation about the company that we are associated with. ACI Education is an education consultancy in Nepal, which is certified and approved by the Ministry of Education. We provide various services, including guidance counseling, study abroad counseling, test preparations such as IELTS, TOEFL, GMAT, GRE, SAT, and we also assist students for their visa and documentation requirement as well. We work with many universities all across the world. Somewhere we have direct representation and somewhere we have indirect representation as well. And we also work with students who want to get into Ivy League colleges as well. So despite we having not a commissionable agency agreement with these education institutions. So of the various countries, we work with universities in the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and now India to help students in their study abroad dreams. And we also work with a little over 15 schools and colleges in Nepal, working with them as a guidance counselor in various capacity to help them. And we always believe in students starting early than starting later. So we usually ask them to start working on their study abroad dream at least 1 year, if not 1.5 years before they graduate. So they are fully prepared when they graduate and they have all the prerequisites for their university requirement. So this is a very brief profile on ACI, and I once again want to welcome all the students participating in this program, in this webinar, and hope we'll be able to do justice to this 2-hour program, and you'll learn quite a lot of things during this session. So that's about ACI. Over to you, Sushant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Savin sir, for the short but very, very informative introduction on ACI. Okay, now why this session? The reason we have organized this session is to give a brief understanding on what GMAT and GRE is. We'll also try to learn how to solve problems in some smart ways. And yes, we will also learn some important but very, very, very critical tips and tricks. Next slide. Okay, what are we going to cover in today's session? That's also very important. As I mentioned earlier, we will be talking on what GMAT and GRE is. Why do we appear for the GMAT and GRE examination? As we know, there's been a lot of confusion in the market among students what GRE is, what GMAT is. What is the test format and scoring system? Few tips and tricks and how to solve problem smartly. As we all know, hard work is very, very important, but smart work is equally important. Therefore, smart work, today our tutor will be talking more on smart work. So definitely we'll be focusing on smart work rather than hard work. Okay, now all the attendees, let's get to know about our instructor, Tara Bhatt sir. As you can see on the screen, he is a top ranked GMAT and GRE coach with more than 95% 5-star reviews. He has more than 15 years of teaching experience in more than 16 countries. He has also been featured in the Chicago Tribune, Chicago Voyage magazine, and CNN Chicago. And he has been ranked as the #1 coach by the Yelp Chicago for GMAT, GRE, and SAT. Now let's have a look at a few screenshots from the Yelp Chicago. All 3 screenshots says he is the #1 tutor for SAT, GMAT, and GRE respectively. There's another interesting fact I would like to mention to all our attendees about Tara sir. If you look at the number 2 tutor in the screenshot, there is my guru, and Tara sir used to coach at my guru before he started the Star Tutor. Now, these are some testimonials that we have extracted from his website, thestartutor.com. There are lots of fantastic testimonials given to Tara sir. You can view them on thestartutor.com, but we have few in our slides. If you go through the first testimonial by Joseph, he says how Tara sir helped him to increase his quant score by 8 points by teaching his few incredible tips and tricks. In the second testimonial given by Raina, she has mentioned Tara sir as a miracle worker. She has talked about how Tara sir helped achieve her dream score in just one short week. This is incredible, isn't it? So these are two testimonials that we've extracted. If you want to view more, you can always log on to the website that I've mentioned before. And these are the testimonials given by the GMAT student. So Kelvin is mentioning how Tara sir helped him to get 770 GMAT score when he was consistently getting around 700 in his practice test. So he had lots and lots of practice tests. He never got, above 700. But because of Tara sir, he was able to achieve 770. That is what he has mentioned. And in another testimonial, Noah says how Tara sir helped her to get 760 from 620 and has advised to just use Tara sir as your tutor. So these are some fantastic testimonials. Let me again mention, if you want to view all of them, you can always log on to the website. Now, dear all, I know I cannot get over talking about our star tutor Tara sir, but keeping track of time, now I would like to hand over this presentation to our star tutor, Mr. Tara Bhatt. Tara sir, over to you now.
Thank you very much, Susan sir, and good afternoon, everyone. So, Susan sir already said a few things about me, and in the interest of time, I will not waste any time talking about myself. The only thing I want to share with you is the reason why I'm in this business and what was my experience coming to Nepal and transitioning from the US market to the Nepali market. Okay, so first of all, why do I do this? Before I was a GMAT and GRE coach, I used to be a research scientist in genetics. I used to be a research assistant at University of Chicago, and I was in my third year of PhD program, and I was doing GMAT and GRE training on the side part-time, and I got unanimous feedback from everyone that my expertise is actually not just necessary, but will be extremely helpful in this area. And after getting a lot of feedback, I decided to go with it full time. And I was also enjoying, helping students and changing their lives. So this was a perfect opportunity for me to start something new. And so when I came to Nepal a couple of years ago, I wanted to get a sense of how the Nepalese market is. I visited some coaching centers, and a few people reached out to me for a potential partnership, and I consistently found the same thing, that the classes were designed for people who were not self-motivated, who lacked discipline, who needed to be told what they have to do, how much they have to study, what kind of homework they have to do, and so on. But these classes were not very helpful for students who are already self-motivated. They can read the books, watch the YouTube videos, and so on their own, but they need some high-level tips and tricks and good quality coaching in order to achieve a high score. In the case of GMAT, 650 plus score, and in case of GRE, 160 plus scores in both sections. So I found that these classes were not very well designed for those students. Okay, so as an ACI team, we want to break that trend, and we want to create classes that are suitable not only for students who are looking for an average score and want to get into some universities in the US, but also helpful for students who are aiming for top tier schools. They call them the business school are called M7 if you're ever interested. The M7 is the top 7 business schools and top 10 or top 15 graduate programs in humanities and science. Okay, I don't want to waste too much time. As I said, I just directly want to introduce you to the test. Let's start with the GMAT. And before I go into GMAT, the reason we have consolidated the GRE and GMAT test into one is that these days some students are not even sure what test to take, and because business schools are already accepting the GRE test as an alternative to the GMAT, it may be important to get to know both of the tests a little bit and then make your decision. So if you still have questions at the end after my explanation, you can always ask me about the differences between these two tests. But one thing that's common between the GRE and the GMAT is that both of the tests are not really interested in testing your math and English skills. So you may often see, if you know your friends and colleagues who have taken the test before, sometimes you find that even the math majors will struggle to get a good score. But at the same time, some of your friends who are music majors or something that has nothing to do with math will actually get a better score. And you'll notice in a second why that can be true. So both of these tests are interested in evaluating your critical thinking and reasoning skills. Okay, and these tests are globally recognized in many universities across the world, and the tests are valid for 5 years. I know we have separate slides, but both of the tests are valid for 5 years. So even if you are not applying for the universities quite yet, it may not be too early to start your process. And GMAT exam and the GRE exam is actually a big part of your MBA or graduate school application. It may not be the only thing that's important, but it is a big part. Okay, a little bit about the test format. I do suggest you to do your own research. Google the test format, Google some sample questions, Google how to do well on the GRE or the GMAT, and read some inspiring articles. So you cannot rely on the instructor for everything. So please do your own research. These kind of things can easily be found online, and there will be thousands of links, if not more. So on the GMAT test, there will be 3 sections, 4 actually, including the essay, but only the last 2 sections, quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning, will affect your 800 score. The other 2 sections will be graded separately. Okay, so both sections, the quant and the verbal, will be graded out of 51, but they will be combined to give you 800 score. As I said, you can read this in detail in your own time. You can also, the registration process is actually really easy. If you just log on to mba.com, and for the GRE, it will be ets.org. I think it will be coming up in a second. It's really easy to register. The test is $250 USD. Okay, that's all you need to know about the registration process. Now, I will slow down a little bit and I'll tell you something that may be surprising for many. And these statements are all based from past score reports. ESRS, extended score report. And these reports are from the actual test. You cannot get a score report for a practice test. So after looking at more than 100 reports, I found that a bad start can be difficult to recover from. So this is, by the way, only for the GMAT. Okay, the GRE test format is slightly different. I don't want to confuse you. But on the GMAT is an adaptive test. So if you start poorly, it will be hard to recover, both on the verbal and the quant section. Solid performance in the first quarter will help a lot, and having less time per section in the last quarter is a bad idea. So to back that up, I will show you some reports. If you compare these 2 charts, the one on the left got 35 out of 51, and the person on the right scored a 44. But if you notice carefully, the person on the left actually got more answers correct, 86%, 71, 57, 57, and the person on the right only 71, 57, 57, 57 in the 4 quarters. But why did the person on the right score higher? It's because of the difficulty level. So if you notice the graph below, the difficulty level for the person on the right is much higher. Okay, it's because this person started very well, so probably got all the easy questions right, and maybe made a small mistake in the difficult questions. But the person on the left may have missed a lot of easy questions, and if you miss easy questions, the algorithm will detect you as a low-level student. So it's very important to make sure not to make any careless mistakes. So as you can see, this person scored even lower, even though he scored 86%, 86%, 100% in the last 3 quarters. Actually, an interesting fact about this person, after he took this test, He came to me and I rectified all of his mistakes. I prescribed him some really good solutions, and he is actually a current student at Harvard Business School. Okay, let's talk a little bit about GRE. A lot of things, and especially the content of the math section or the quant section will be very similar, but there are some differences. And in terms of what the test is testing, it's about the same: reasoning skills, critical thinking skills, and so on. And it's also valid for 5 years. In the GRE test, there will be 2 verbal sections, 2 quantitative sections, shorter, not as long as the quant, as long as the verbal and quant on the GMAT. And there will be an experimental unscored section, but you will not know which one it is. Okay, and the GRE scoring is from 130 to 170 points instead of 800. Okay, now whatever I'm going to say next will be applicable for both GMAT and GRE. And there are obviously types of questions and content that are unique to the GMAT and unique to the GRE, but because I want to incorporate everyone, I have refrained from those types of questions and content today. Okay, first of all, before you even start your preparation, it's important to know what they are looking for. They're obviously not looking for a student who knows more math than anyone else or whose English is a lot better than all other applicants. They are looking for reasoning skills, and they are looking for the same thing the job market is looking for, the industry is looking for. Because eventually, once you graduate from the MBA or PhD program, whatever you are applying to, you will eventually look for a job, most of you anyway. So the job market is interested in very fast, very focused, and very persistent individuals. Because of that, the universities will also try to train similar students, and consequently, the GMAT or the ETS, whoever is writing the test, will make sure to design the test that rewards these kind of students. So speed, ability to focus, persistence are the 3 things that you are looking for, and you want to change your preparation style and modify your habits just to fit that agenda. And I'll show you why in a second and how. Okay, as I said, the careless mistakes in the GMAT test and also to some extent on the GRE will cost you a lot. And because of that, the first thing I tell my personal clients who study with me is please create an error log. Okay, because if you make a mistake today, you are very likely to make the same mistake. This is actually my error log. I also make mistakes. I'm not a robot, so I have made many careless mistakes in during my practice sessions. So in my error log, I include the question, the description of the question, what the mistake is, how to correct it, and redo. So I want to tell all of you guys that if you end up not taking our classes, please at least do this much. And a few other things I'll tell you today. If you do this much, your score will already improve by 10 to 20% because careless mistakes is the biggest source of failure on the GMAT test and also on the GRE test, but mostly on the GMAT. And I'm not making this up. I attended a lot of seminars by the GMAT company at University of Chicago in Chicago, and in every single seminar they mention the same thing: careless. They penalize people who make careless mistakes, and they reward people who can see the shortcuts and think out of the box and do things quickly. And they want to obviously penalize people who do everything the way they are taught in school. They want critical thinkers. They want people who think differently. I also want to emphasize that there's no calculator on the GMAT, and the calculator on the GRE is a very, very rudimentary calculator. It's not a lot of fun. You have to click on the calculator button. It opens up, and then click on each number, press equals to and whatnot. It's a lot of hassle. So I always tell my students to memorize multiples and a few other things. And I also train them how to multiply and divide quickly. Let's just see a quick example, because there will be a lot of problems in which you'll be expected to multiply, divide, square, and whatnot. It's always a good idea to learn how to do that quickly. So one very popular type of multiplication that can be simplified is a number ending in 5 and an even number. For example, 25 with 14. Most students cannot do this on their heads, but if you double the number 25 and half the number 14, you get 50 times 7, and almost everyone can multiply 50 with 7. You just have to multiply 5 with 7 and keep the trailing 0, right? So from 25 times 14 to 50 times 7, and I hope you all understand why this has the same value as this, because when you double a number and half the other, the product really doesn't change. It's equivalent to multiplying by 1. Okay, so I'll have dozens of tricks like this to help you save time, and there will be also tips and tricks about how to answer the question faster, especially in the quant section. Alternative methods is a big part of my training. How to use unconventional methods that are different from what they teach you in high school and college courses, methods that are not technically overloaded, methods that are optimum for a 2-minute time frame, 2 minutes per question. On the GRE, it's even less than 2 minutes per question. Okay, I also believe in holistic approach, and I'll explain that in a second. Before you even start your preparation, let's say if you're running a 100-meter race, what is the first thing you want to do? Take care of your body, right? It's the same thing for a standardized test training. If you're taking the test in 2 months or 3, you also want to keep yourself fit mentally and physically to take the test. So I wrote an article on Medium explaining how to keep yourself ready or physically and mentally fit, and I refer to these 6 things as 6 poisons of the test prep, things that can absolutely ruin your test prep experience and also your actual score. Short attention span and poor focus, overthinking, anxiety, fatigue, poor endurance, tense muscles, tense brain, insomnia, sleep deprivation, procrastination. Okay, if you have any of these 6 bad habits, maybe it's time to address them now, because it may be too late by the time if you are 1 week away from the test, and if you want to start sleeping well and starting digital fasting, then it may be too late. So maybe start a good lifestyle even now. And the 6 antidotes, by the way, the antidotes you don't necessarily need the antidotes only if you have those problems. You can take these antidotes even if you have no bad habits at all. Mindfulness, meditation, some of these things are really obvious. Some of you may be thinking, oh, I know all of this, but my job is to remind you that these are important, because most of my clients have been completely ignoring these, and they regret that later when it's too late. Okay, mindfulness, meditation, exercise, stretching, yoga, and trust me, there have been so many researches stating that your physical health will actually affect your mental health as well. Breathing exercise, digital fasting is a big one, because these days everyone is always glued to their phones, using social media, playing Ludo and whatnot. So it's important to get rid of your phone temporarily, at least a few days a week. Sleep habits, water and diet and whatnot. I also believe in sharpening your axe before you chop your wood. And in the context of the GMAT and GRE, speed reading is a big one, because in the verbal section, you'll be reading a lot of material in a short amount of time and answering the questions. So even before you start your preparation or read a book, I would start on your speed speed up your reading. And math fundamentals, for obvious reasons. And for the GMAT only, you need a really good grasp on grammar, structure, and grammar and structure nuances. And for the GRE, as many of you already know, vocabulary is a big one. I would even start your process with learning 1,000 new words. Endurance training. Now, some of my past students, before meeting with me, they did everything right. They worked hard. They trained themselves for the math fundamentals. They memorized 2,000 words and whatnot, but they made one mistake. They did not take enough practice tests. And on the tests, they could not last 3.5 hours without being tired or hungry or angry. So if you're running a 40-kilometer marathon, you want to make sure that you can run that distance a few times before the actual day, right? If you directly try that feat on the actual day, you may crash or something bad may happen. So you want endurance training a few times. I suggest 8 times to my personal clients, but depending on how far your test is, that number can vary. I also keep a detailed record of all the helpful studies on my Google Drive and share that with my students. And some of the helpful studies I can mention here are that if you sleep well, if you're getting a good quality sleep, your brain will repeat what you learn in the daytime. Also, learning a new language, even a few words in a new language will reset your brain to a more efficient state. Chewing gum before the test relieves anxiety. Again, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but there's no harm in chewing gum if you are feeling anxious. So yeah, I'll make sure to keep all my articles. You can obviously find all of these things online, but it'll take you a lot of time to compile these. So my job is to save all of your time and do all of the work for you. Undoing bad habits. That's another one, important one to take care of yourself. Many people are afraid of making mistakes. Many have a habit of being afraid of the problem. Many people hold to the problem too tight. They want to make sure they get this question right and not think about the future questions. Okay, all of these things are detrimental to your score. All right, there are a lot of things, but in the interest of time, this is all I'll talk about today in terms of taking care of your mental and physical health, as well as creating, cultivating good habits to prepare for the GMAT and GRE test. And we're doing something interesting today. We have a set of short quizzes and 3 questions from the GMAT, 3 from the GRE, which will apply to both tests. As I said before, we are not testing on any content that is unique to each test, and no pressure on your end. We are not trying to test your level. We are just trying to give you some warm-up exercises and inspiring, trying to motivate you to start your test prep journey very soon. So yeah, hopefully you'll like participating in these polls. So Susan, sir, I'll hand over the mic to you, and please let's start the pop quizzes.
Okay, thank you so much, Tara sir, for the information. Now, as Tara sir mentioned, we have a set of pop quizzes. What we will do is we will show you the questions, and you'll be given 2 minutes to look at the question properly, and there'll be a section where you can answer it. You can tick on the right answer. So after you select the answers, our star tutor Tara sir will teach us how to solve those problems in smart ways. So Tara sir, can we get on to our first question? Okay, dear all attendees, this is our first question. So you're allowed 2 minutes to have a look at it and solve them. Your time starts now. Okay, that's time. So if you think the answer is A, please click on A. If you think the answer is B, C, D, or E, whatever you think the right answer is, please click onto it. Now there is a suggestion. If you're not able to click on the right answer, please make your screen small. If you have maximized your screen, please make it small. Then it'll be easy for you to click.
And you can actually exit the full screen mode by clicking the escape key on the top left of your keyboard. Just in case you didn't know.
really good to see everyone participating. Thank you all the attenders. So now let's look at the spawn. Okay, 38% of you think the answer is A, 25% of you think the answer is B, 22% of you think the answer is C, 9% of you think the answer is D, and 6% of you think the answer is E. Now let's see what the right answer is. Over to you, Tara sir.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for participating. Before I even go ahead and solve this problem, by the way, I will not solve this problem the regular way using a variable x and writing an equation and solving for x. Yeah, I will not just because it will take time, but because my goal today is to show you alternative methods. But before that, I will show you a quick trick to remove some of the answers. In this case, only 2 answers. Sometimes you can remove 3 or even 4 answers using this trick. So there's a 3% increase in salary and 5.5% increase in fringe, and the average is 3.5, right? So the average, so if you do the average of 5 and 3.5, it will be 4 and some change, right? 4.25 or something like that. And that's not the case. The average, the weighted average, so that's what they call it, is 3.5. That means there should be a lot of this than this, right? Okay, so a lot of this than this. So the answer should be less than 50%. And I'm glad to see that very few of you answered D and E. Okay, and when you see a question, and it's impossible to, almost impossible, I wouldn't say impossible, impossible to comfortably finish every single question on the test. So sometimes you'll have to gamble. So in this case, if you find this question difficult, maybe just remove D and E and answer one of the 3 questions and move on, especially if you are running out of time. So gambling strategies is a big part of my training. Okay, now how to actually solve the problem? There's something that I call a seesaw method. Seesaw method. So you have a seesaw in which there's a balance at the center, and one person sits on the left, one person sits on the right. If you have a heavy person, he or she will sit closer, and if it's a lighter person, he or she will sit proportionately further. Okay, so the same way, weighted average, the weighted average will be proportionately distance from each of the numbers. So I'll explain. That may not mean anything without showing it to you. 3 is actually 0.5 away from 3.5, and 5.5 is 2 away, right? And the ratio, the ratio is what's important. What is the ratio of 0.5 to 2? It's 1 to 4, right? 0.5 to 2 is 4. I hope you all can do this. 0.5 to 2 is the same as 1 to 4. If the ratio of the distance is 1 to 4, the ratio of the value will be opposite, 4 to 1. Okay, just remember opposite. Again, as I said before, if you want to get something out of this session, and if you choose to prepare on your own, these are the kind of things that will help you save a lot of time. Okay, so as I said, the value is always opposite, and I'm explaining this slowly to represent everyone. Now, if the fringe and salary are in a 4 to ratio, or salary and fringe, whichever comes first, salary and fringe, the total is 5 units. Out of 5 units, 4 units are salary and 1 unit are fringe. So 1 out of 5 is 20%. And if I'm too fast, I apologize. In the interest of time, this is all I can do to explain today. Yeah, hopefully you can find something like this in practice, and then find an explanation to similar questions in detail online. But hopefully this made sense to most of you, if not all of you, and hopefully you learned something from it today. And without further ado, I will hand over the mic to Susan sir and to the next poll.
Thank you so much, Tara sir. Now I would like to get on to the second question, Tara sir.
There you go.
Okay, once again, The second question is there. I would like all of you to go through the question properly. You're again given 2 minutes to have a close look at the question and solve it. And your time starts now.
Tara sir, there is a concern from few students that they cannot see the most right-hand corner of the words. So
Okay.
can we read
Yeah.
the question for them
Yeah.
once?
No, yeah, okay. I apologize for that. The first line is the number of employees in J to K has been. Okay, so hopefully you can see it now. And the second line was visible. The third line is just answered right. Only the first line was hidden. The number of employees in J to K. J to K12. So maybe you can add a few more seconds to 2 minutes to answer.
Sure, Tara sir. I'll do that. That's it. Your time's over. And again, you're given options, and whatever you think the right option is, please click on the right option. Thank you everyone for responding. Okay, let me see what your answers were. 22% of you think the answer is A, 19% of you think the answer is B, 38% of you think the answer is C, 13% of you think the answer is D, and 9% of you think the answer is E. Now, Tarasa, over to you.
Okay, well, I understand that this is a not an easy question, and some questions do take more than 2 minutes, and some for other questions there are to compensate for that. There are questions that you can potentially answer within a minute or sometimes less than that. So hypothetically, let's say you are towards the end of your test. You have done very well so far. So you have difficult questions on the screen. By the way, on the GMAT, if you do well, you will get harder and harder questions. Not always, but most of the time. Okay, now let's say you see this question, but you don't have enough time, right? What do you do? Well, you need a backup, right? So I teach my students a technique called reviewing or analyzing the formula. So that in itself is not clear. So I'll tell you what that means. So we start with 1 to 3 to 5 ratio for J to K12. Okay, let's write that down. On the test, you don't have to write the details. So some of you or many of you may know that this can be written as x, 3x, and 5x. Okay. And you don't even have to write this for this question. And the total, because they are asking for the total we can write the total in terms of the variable or constant x, right? 5 plus 3 plus 1, that's 9x. By the way, this is the answer is the total after the addition of 20 employees, right? So our final number is 9x plus 20. Okay, so whatever the right answer is, that is equivalent to 9x plus 20. Okay, now what are we trying to do with this? Because the answer has to be a multiple of 9 plus 20. How do I know that? Because 9x means a multiple of 9. By definition, x has to be an integer. Okay, so since the answer has to be a multiple of 9 plus 20, if you subtract 20, the answer should be, the difference should be a multiple of 9, right? So let's subtract 20 from each. If you subtract 20, this will be 160. Okay, let's write it. Yeah, I'll just write it here. And if you subtract 20 from B, it will be 220. If you subtract 20 from C, it will be 240, 300, and 360. Well, lucky day for us, we have only one answer that's a multiple of 9, namely 360. Okay, so the answer is E380. Now, what if you had two answers that were multiple of 9? Well, did I say multiple of 20 people? Okay, anyway, multiple of 9. If you had two answers that were multiples of 9, then you would have to take a 50-50 shot. That's what gambling skills mean. You only follow this method if you are running out of time, and or if you are in the middle of your test and you are already over your clock. On the clock, it should be on average 2 minutes per question on the GMAT, 1 minute 35 seconds on the GRE. So you'll have a good training by the time you take your actual test. So if you see that the time you're over time, then maybe take a 50-50 shot if you are not able to remove 4 answers. But if you're able to remove 4 answers, what can be better than that, right? You don't even have to solve this problem. So to summarize this, there is a regular way to solve this problem using an algebraic method, but there's also a way to guess, or not even guess, get the correct answer by using the formula for the target. Okay, hopefully that helped. I will again erase this and take you to the next poll. This is actually from the verbal section. In this question, you are supposed to read the question and check the underline section, review the underline section, and find any potential mistakes. If you think there is no mistake, your answer is A. Otherwise, if you think there is a mistake, read the other answer choices and then choose the edited version of the sentence. Okay, students, are over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tara sir. Once again, we have the same system. All the attendees, you're allowed 2 minutes to have a close look at the question and give the right answer, and your time starts now. Your time's over. Once again, I'm launching the answer poll. So please stick on to the right answer. Now, this is a gentle reminder to all the attendees, though we will be having a question and answer session at the end. But if you have any queries, if you want to ask any questions now, you can always post in to the chat section. It's below the pane, so you can always post in your questions. Okay, so I'm closing the poll now.
Small correction, the questions to be posted in the questions section.
Question section. Okay, so here we've got the answers. So A, 16% of you think it's A, 27% of you think it's B, 35% of you think it's C, 11% of you think it's D, and again 11% of you think it's E. So let's see what the right answer is. Over to you, Tara sir.
Thank you, Suzanne sir. So I see that most of you think the answer is C. Well, this is not the correct answer, but this is the second best answer for sure. And obviously you don't get partial credit to get the second best answer. You have to get the best answer out of 5. But I'm happy to see that you at least know something about the sentence structure, okay? Because if you answer D or E, there are more flaws in the last 2 answers than C. So a lot of you have some idea about how the sentence should be. By the way, in case you want to self-study or you decide not to take our lessons, one other tip I can give you is that sentence correction, or SC, is the easiest section to improve in the verbal section. There are other 2 sections, critical reasoning and reading comprehension. These are actually much harder to improve. So you obviously want to do your best, read a lot, work on your speed of your reading, work on your critical. Yeah, I cannot really explain all the details today, but bottom line is sentence correction is the easiest because this is the most technical, most mathematical, for lack of better word, section in the verbal. And I remember a story about, this was a long time ago, but I had a student from Africa. I remember whether it was Nigeria or Ivory Coast. Anyway, his name was Kwesi, and he was struggling with the GMAT. He came to me with a score of 400. He had just taken the test, and he wanted to obviously improve and get a score that was more than 600. Okay, in order to qualify for even an average level MBA program. And I saw his report, and I found that he got only 20% right in the sentence correction. And you get 20% right just by luck, right? This is, you know, even if you answer A for everything, it will be 20% right by default. And I was actually happy to see his report because since sentence correction is the easiest to improve, I gave him a book to read. I gave him another book to read. And if you're curious, the first book was Manhattan Prep, second was Veritas Prep. I haven't written any book in the verbal, so you know, I gave him the best 2 books in the market. And then he asked me all the questions he had from the book. I gave him additional training and gave him the shortcut for the sentence correction. And his final score was what? Wait for it, from 400 to 640. So 240-point improvement. This happens very, very rarely, only for dedicated students who can read. We have the discipline to read 2 books and do high quality one-on-one sessions with me. He also obviously improved in his quant section, but his verbal improvement was tremendous after working on his sentence correction. Now, let me also very quickly tell you why the CR and the RC are difficult to improve, because they actually depend on all the skills that you have gained throughout your school years and your career. So people who have worked in the industry for 4 or 5 years, who have written many articles, blogs, and you know, attended seminars, given talks and all that, their critical reasoning and reading comprehension skills will be naturally better. If you are just coming out of fresh out of college, then sentence correction and the quantitative section will be your strength. And one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is that when the universities look at your scores, they always compare your score with Okay, this is very important, so I'll repeat. They always compare your scores with other applicants similar to you, and this was an article published on Harvard Business School magazine. They always compare your scores to other students who are similar to you. So your scores will be compared with international students from China, India, and all the South Asian countries. If you were an American student with English as your first language, then they would expect an average score or maybe a little over average score in the math quant section and a very high score in the verbal section. So if you have the misconception that in order to do well, you need a very high verbal score and an okay quant score, that may be true for American students, but not for you. You actually need a very, very high quant score, much higher than the verbal if you want to impress the admission committee. Okay, with that said, let's look at this question. You should always, in a sentence correction, you should always look at the verb first, because most of the mistakes are based on subject verb agreement. And by the way, if you're curious what subject verb agreement is, everyone knows that Ram eats rice, not Ram eat rice, right? So this is an overly used sentence that we have all seen in our lifetime, and by now we all know it's Ram eats rice. But in a long sentence with a lot of modifiers, and don't worry what modifiers are right now, you will be lost, and it will be difficult for you to see what the subject is and what the verb is. Now in this case, the verb is suggest. Claims is actually used as a noun. So let's find out what the subject is, and we'll try to match the subject with the verb. A surge in home sales and a drop in weekly unemployment claims. That's two things, surge and drop. Whenever there are two things separated with and, it's a plural subject. And a plural subject will take a plural verb, and plural verb is suggest. So A and C are the only correct answers here, because B says suggests and C and D and E says suggesting. They don't even complete the sentence. Suggesting will make both the sentences incomplete. Okay, between A and E, if you are really in a rush, rather than trying to find out the correct sentence, trying to find a flaw in the sentence. So in C, have been previously thought. And what is this word have been referring to? Economic. Economic is singular, have been is plural. That's it. C is out, the correct answer is A. But as I said, 35% of you said C. That's partially correct. It's not completely correct. There's nothing wrong with A. Another problem with C was that it is written in the passive voice, which is not preferred, which is not wrong grammatically, but it's not the first option for the test writers. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on this problem. I will erase and move on. Now we will do, and Sabin sir, maybe you can let us know in the interest of time how many more questions we can do. There are 3 more left. So I will take your advice on that, and let me know.
Go ahead with all the 3 questions. We can go ahead with all the 3 questions.
Thank you. Let's do number 4. Susan, sir, over to you.
Sure. So once again, we have another question for you. So as usual, you're allowed 2 minutes to go through it and think about it. Your time starts now. That's it. Your time's over now. Now, once again, let me get onto our poll. Okay, please stick on to the right answer. I'm really thankful to all the attendees because the participation has been really incredible. Almost everyone has participated in all the questions. Once again, thank you so much. Yes, we've collected all the answers. Let's now see how many of you got it right. So again, 14% of you think the answer is A, 29% B, 14 C, 34% of you think the answer is D, and 9% of you think the answer is E. Again, back to Tara sir to learn how to solve this problem. Tara sir, over to you now.
Thank you. So I'll make this quick because part of my training is also challenging you to think. Sometimes I intentionally don't explain everything. I'll leave you with half an explanation, and at home you can actually go and figure out why. Because the test is both the GMAT and GRE are testing your critical thinking skills. So I want you to be a critical thinker and do some analysis on your own. Okay, so please forgive me for being only explaining this partially, but okay, one thing I can tell. Well, first of all, what is a terminating decimal and what are non-zero digits? Okay, so if you have a number 0.00125, this is called terminating because it stops after 5 places. A non-terminating decimal is something like a pi, which goes on forever. So this is a terminating. So these three are called the non-zero digits, and these two are called digits. So for 0.00125, 0 and 0, 2 zeros, and 3 non-zero digits. Okay. So as I said before, when we learned about doubling halving technique, there are some ways to simplify the multiplication and division. By the way, a GRE calculator cannot do this, and on the GMAT you don't even have a calculator. So you have to come up with a quick shortcut to divide this past. So 211, 517. If I multiply the numerator and the denominator both by 2 to the 6th, and your job at home is to think about why I multiply by 2 to the 6th. Some of you probably already realized 2 to the 4th, 2 to the 6th is 64. When I multiply by 2 to the 6th, I get 217, 517. And when you combine 217 with 517, and don't worry, you'll be getting all of these training in our detailed classes. So 64 over 10 to the 17, this will be 0 point some zeros and 64. We don't really care about the number of zeros because the question is concerned with number of non-zero digits. That's just 2. Okay. I know that I didn't fully explain why I multiply by 2 to the 6, but some of you, I'm sure, already figured this out. Okay, all right. So erasing this and moving on to the next question.
Thank you, Tara sir. Thank you so much. Once again, we've got our 5th pop quiz for you guys. So again, it's the same thing. So you'll have 2 minutes to look at the question carefully, and your time starts now.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I want to make a change. This has been a typo. This should be some, okay. All right, Susan sir, I apologize for the interruption. Sum of the 6, okay.
Okay, time's up. There was a small typo and Tara sir corrected it instantly, and I also added 10 more seconds to all of you. Now let's move on to our, let's say, answer section. So once again, if you think the answer is A, B, C, or D, or E, please tick on to the right answer. Once again, I encourage all the attendees, all our participating students to ask questions. Please, yes, we do have a question and answer session at the end, but you can post in your questions. Okay, thank you for responding. Thank you everyone for let's look at the answers. Tara sir, so we have 5% saying the answer is A, 5% saying the answer is B, 19% of our students think the answer is C, 22% of them think the answer is D, and 49% of them think the answer is E. Now let's see, over to you, Tara sir.
Okay, I want to say good job, everyone. Almost half of you got the answer right. But my goal is to show you how to do this problem very quickly. Okay. So this is SumMap, as everyone already knows. Okay, so there is a way to do, many of you probably did n plus 1, n plus 2, sorry, n plus 2, n plus 4, and so on, because they are all even, they're separated by 2. That's one way to do it, but if you really want to save time, you can draw 6 lines, or just imagine 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And especially if you're trying to take the test, GMAT test, especially online from home, these kind of tricks will be extremely useful because they don't allow a pen and a paper. GRE does. So if you have if you're not sure between the two, maybe GRE is a better choice for this, one reason. On GMAT, they force you to write on the whiteboard like I'm doing right now. So it can slow you down. So mental math tips and tricks such as this one will be extremely helpful. So the trick here is, because this is an arithmetic sequence, meaning they're all equally apart, the average will be exactly in the middle. So what's in the middle? The middle number is the average of the third and fourth, right? So there's no middle number here. It has to be between third and fourth. And what is the average of 102? 102 divided by 6. I hope all of you know how to do this. I'm sure you do. So that's 17. Okay, and it's also important to memorize the multiples. I know that 17 times 6 is 102. Whenever I see the number 102, I think of 17. So those kind of small things, small important but often neglected things will give you an advantage. And both GRE and GMAT tests are curved, meaning you only get a good score if you do better than other students. It's like a poker game. So you have to beat other players on the table. Okay. So if you know tricks that a lot of people don't, that will give you an advantage. All right. So since 17 is the number in the middle of the third and fourth, you know that these two should be 16 and 18. Okay. And then 20 and 22. That's it. If we were not talking, this would not take me more than 15 seconds, or maybe 20 seconds. Even for a slow person, 30 seconds. Okay. So, but if you do n plus 2, n plus 4, it may take you more than a minute. All right. I also want to mention one more thing. During my actual classes, I use a noise canceling headphone. So if you are experiencing any sort of background noise, that will not happen in our actual sessions. We have a very professional headphones imported from the USA in order to conduct our lessons. Even today, I cannot hear that much background noise from anywhere, but if there was ever any background noise, I apologize, and I want to assure you that that's not part of that will not be part of the actual classes. Okay, so we have the last questions on the screen. This is from the GRE verbal. Now, I forgot to mention one thing. The sentence correction was from the GMAT, and the sentence correction, as I said, is the easiest section to learn. That is for the GMAT test takers. And this is, I encourage everyone to answer this question, but this is definitely very important for GRE test takers. And as you can see, this is very heavy with vocabulary. Okay, Susan, sorry, you can start. Or I guess.
Thank you, Tara sir. Yeah. Once again, all the attendees, so you have 2 minutes as usual. And your time starts now. Everyone, your time's up. So once again, as usual, please choose the right answer. Once again, I would like to thank all of you for being very, very participative in terms of, let's say, asking questions or attending the pop quiz. Almost everyone has participated in the pop quiz, and yes, we've been getting a lot of questions from your side. It's very, very encouraging and motivating for us. So let's see. Okay, now let's see how many of you got the answer right or wrong. So Tara sir, we've got 23% saying the answer is A, 28% saying the answer is B. We have 36% saying the answer is C, and only 8% saying it's D and 5% saying it's E. Over to you, Tara sir. What's the right answer?
Thank you. Again, congratulations. Most of you got the answer right, and this is primarily based on your vocabulary. So if you know the meaning of the word venal, which is the closest meaning is corrupt, okay? And if you don't know the meaning of the word venal, then you have to know the meaning of other 4 words. That way you can actually remove the bad answers. The second thing that the answer bases on, or something that helps you choose the correct answer, is the clause. There are, usually most of the sentences on the GRE have at least at least 2 clauses, sometimes more than that. So the clause that is not part of the blank, or the second clause in this sentence, will actually give you some clue. Okay, led to the appointment of ethics officer. So why would someone appoint ethics officer if something wrong is going right? So you can already expect a negative word here. So even if you don't know the exact meaning, and you know that these 2 words are positive, and this is a neutral word, well, puzzled, can mean both good and bad, maybe a little bit of negative, and artificial is also neutral, then, I mean, venal, I don't know, I mean, without knowing the word, it's hard to tell whether it sounds positive or negative. And that's another way to remove some of the bad answers. But you also have to be careful, because sometimes there is a double negative. Sometimes the sentence will say the belief that politicians might not become something, or the absence of belief, or there are sometimes they will make double or even triple negative. So since you expect a negative word, you can look at and see if there's more than one negative word, then you want to see which one is most appropriate. The belief that politicians might be, what is the opposite of ethics, right? Unethical, right? So that's corrupt is definitely unethical. So as you see, this is definitely 80% vocabulary, only 20% analysis of sentence structure. But if the sentence becomes longer, and if there's more than one blank, trust me, there are questions with 3 blanks. So when there are multiple blanks, the vocabulary alone will not be enough to answer the question. Sometimes you may have to actually be able to analyze the sentence in great detail. Anyway, thank you everyone, and great job on this. This is a really good start. So if you can get something like this correct, that will set a good path for difficult questions that you will see on the test. Okay, because on the GRE in the first section, there are 20 questions. If you do well on 20 questions, you will get harder questions in the second section, and harder questions are obviously worth more points. Okay, so let's this is it. This was our last question, and we'll just try to wrap up the session now. Okay, so as you see, we'll train you how to solve like a pro. This is definitely not possible for every single question, but this is possible for more than half of the questions. So if you learn 200 tricks with us, maybe you can apply 20 or 30 tricks on the test. That will be more than enough. And don't expect to use every single trick, because it really depends on your luck. Sometimes you get a certain type of question that you have done before. Sometimes you get a completely new question that will baffle you, and you will forget all about the tricks. And sometimes there will be a trick that you could potentially use, but you only remember that once that question is gone and you have already answered the question. And don't worry too much. No test is perfect. Even when I took the test, it was not perfect. I had only 30 seconds left for the last question in the quant section. So no test is perfect. And you can get a perfect score, but you cannot take the test perfectly comfortably. Okay, that's what I meant. Many people have gotten 170 in the quantitative section, including myself and one of my students, and even in the quant section of the GMAT test. So, okay, so how do we conduct our classes? This is just the summary. There will obviously be a lot of things to mention about our approach, but we definitely start with the mock exam because as with a medical doctor, we try to diagnose your strengths and weaknesses. If we have enough people for more than one class, let's say 2 or 3 classes, we'll definitely try to um, group people based on their aptitude, their goals, and their amounts of prior preparation and their mock exam scores. And also, we definitely provide a detailed orientation. This was more like a summary, but we'll tell you everything you need to know about the test so that you know, it's like you can almost take the test like your enemy, right? So if you want to beat your enemy, you have to understand your enemy first. Okay, that's not really a really good way of explaining it, but you know that if that works for you, please do it. Provide basic review classes to build your foundations. Obviously, I understand that many of you will need foundational classes for English, and some of you will need those for the math as well. And we'll have a lot of books for you to read, a lot of practice questions. I have a big collection of questions in my Google Drive that I use with my American and Canadian students. So I'm happy to show, I always share that with Nepalese students as well. Advanced tips and tricks, obviously, so the tests are really time constrained. Without the tricks and tips, it's hard to finish the test on time. 5 to 6 is the minimum amount of mock exams that we ask you to do. You can do more than that, especially if you are aiming for a 650 plus score on the GMAT and 160 plus on the GRE each section. Then obviously you want to do more tests, more mock exams. And finally, GMAT and GRE prep both are like marathons, not a sprint. So if you are taking the test in 6 months, it's never too late to start today. The earlier you start, the better it will be for you. And even if you, let's say, if you spend the same number of hours in the preparation, it's better to do 3 hours a day for 6 months than many hours a day to 12 hours a day for 3 weeks. It's definitely better if you spread out your preparation. Okay, I want to thank everyone for attending the session. Obviously, I'll be answering the question at the end, but hopefully you learned something and you are encouraged and motivated to do some research on your own and start your preparation and hopefully take a mock exam. And don't be afraid of the score. In the beginning, everyone gets a much lower score than they deserve. I got a much lower score than I got on my final exam. So just get started. Okay, get over the fear of failure if you have that problem. Okay. With that said, I will hand over the mic again to Sushant sir.
Thank you, Tara sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tara sir, and thank you all the attendees. You've been a very participative attendees. Now, I would like all of you to rate our session. Please be honest, because this is also a room of improvement for us. So please do the rating. Be honest. We're still getting the responses. Be with us in our session. And that's it. Thank you everyone for rating us. Thank you all of you. Tara sir, can you move on to the next slide?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, now there is a general information to all our attendees. If you want to reach out to us, if you want to, let's say, study the classes, then there are two ways to reaching out to us. One, you can always send us an email. The email address is there. It's info@aci.edu.np. And there's another way to reach out to us. I have actually sent a link in the chat box. So what all our attendees can do is you can click the link and fill the form and send it to us, so that you can directly reach out to us. So as I mentioned earlier, if you want to join our full classes, if there's any queries regarding GMAT, GRE, these are the two ways to reach out to us. Tara sir, next slide. Okay, again, if you require counseling regarding your desired destination, if you require any sort of counseling wherever you want to study, so there are different ways to reaching out to us. So once again, I'll be sending a link in your chat box. Tarasa, can we move on to the next slide?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
so these are various ways of reaching out to us. So one, you can, as I said, you can send us an email at info@aci.edu.np. Another one is there is a link that I'm sending again in the chat box. There is a second link that I've just sent. You can fill in the form and send it to us, so that you can reach out directly to us. So there's another way to reach out to us, that is you can visit our website, and there is a section called book an appointment. You can book an appointment online. So that is the third thing that you can do if you want to reach out to us. And the fourth thing is you can directly log on to our Facebook page. So these are the four different ways to reach out to us if you need counseling regarding your abroad studies. As I mentioned, if you want to get into your desired destination, if you want any information, so these are the ways reaching out to us. So there's a link, I've sent it. That's a link. You can click it, fill the form, and you can directly send it to us. And before we begin our question and answer session, I would once again like to thank all the attendees. I would like to thank Tara sir for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you everyone. Now over to you, Sabin sir. I think we've got a lot of questions to be answered.
And before, in case anyone is curious, I'm located in Kathmandu at the moment, and I was planning to be here for at least 1 year, but with the lockdown and everything, I think my departure may even be extended. But even if I return to North America, I will be involved in teaching in Nepal in one way or the other. But for people who are taking the test very soon, I will be locally in Nepal. And so just in case anyone was curious.
Thank you, Sushant. Thank you, Tara sir. I think I've got a number of questions. To be precise, I've got a little over 26 questions. I'll try to merge most of the questions in the interest of time, and I think we have exactly half an hour to address all these questions. In case if you're not able to answer your questions, please just drop us a quick email at info@aci.edu.np, and we'll ensure that we'll revert to you within 48 hours. Okay. The first question that's coming, and which is coming from quite a few students, they just want to understand the difference between GMAT and GRE. Who should take GMAT? Who should take GRE? Based on what you want to study, and as well as based on your capabilities. So Tara sir, if you could just help elaborate for our students who should take GMAT and who should take GRE.
Okay, traditionally, GMAT exam is designed for students who apply for the business school, in other words, MBA. Okay, so for many years in the past, GMAT was the only exam for the MBA applicants, but these days the MBA program, most of the MBA programs, at least the top MBA programs, are also accepting the GRE, and you can easily find that information if you visit the website of the respective university. But I will be very surprised if any of the universities these days are not accepting the GRE instead of the GMAT. Now, if you are not sure, if you are an MBA candidate and well, MBA applicant, let's say, if you are not sure between the two tests, I would actually do some take a mock exam for both of them and decide what is best for you. But what I can tell you right now is that if you don't mind memorizing things, and if you are mathematically challenged, or if your mathematics is not your strong suit, then GRE is the test for you. Okay, I'll repeat. If you don't mind memorizing, if you have a good memory, or if you can put in the hours to memorize new words, then GRE is a better test for you. If you are a writer or a blogger, or if you have a good grasp on the English language, grammar, sentence structure and all, then GMAT is the better test. If you can read fast and understand the context of the English professional academic articles, then GMAT is the right test for you. And I think those are the major differences. I also encourage you to read GMAT versus GRE articles online. I'm sure there have been articles that juxtapose the two tests in great detail, and tell you every single difference that is out there. Both tests are equally long, they are equally tedious, equally time constrained, but one is vocabulary intensive, that is the GRE, and one is grammar and sentence structure intensive and critical thinking intensive, which is the GMAT. The math section is harder on the GMAT. So if I have to vote for one, I would go with the GRE, because it is at least marginally easier than the GMAT.
Okay, so the second question is from a student who says that he or she plans to go to Australia. Do I require GMAT? So I'll answer that very shortly. Most of the management program in Australia does not require GMAT or GRE as a requirement. However, the top business schools such as the Australian Graduate School of Management, Melbourne Business School, Monash, for the MBA program, they do require GMAT. And the other advantage, which I just wanted to quickly mention, is that if you get a good score in GMAT and GRE, you can actually put that in your CV as well. So most of the consulting company like the likes of McKinsey, BCG, AT&T, Accenture, Partner and on, because these companies actually require fresh MBA graduates to also share their GMAT and GRE scores as well. And even quite a few investment banks around the world, just to see your analytical skills, they also request for your GMAT and GRE scores as well. So giving GMAT and GRE and getting a good score will not only help you for your postgrad program, but also help you during your placement years as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great point, Samit sir. I actually wanted to add one more thing to the previous question, actually. So if you are applying for a PhD or a master program in science and humanities, then GMAT will not be a test for you. For the MBA applicants, GMAT, you have a choice between the GMAT and the GRE, but if you're applying for a science or humanities PhD or master program, you don't have a choice. It will be the GRE. And if in case, and this is very, very rare, especially for NAPLIS applicants, but if you're applying for an executive MBA, if you even know what that means, then you have a much easier test called executive assessment test called EA, which is a lot easier than the GMAT. So only if you are an executive executive MBA applicant.
Thank you, Tara sir. The other question is from a student. She is asking, what do you mean by computer adaptive test?
Okay, so the word adaptive means it will adapt to your level. For example, let's divide the difficulty level of the questions from 1 to 10. Okay, so let's say the first question is, well, the first question is always level 5, between 1 and 10. Okay, 5 or 6 or 5.5, whatever you want to call it. So the first question will be average difficulty level. If you get that right, you'll maybe get a level 6 question. If you get that right, you'll get a level 7 question. If you get that right, maybe you'll get another 7, because it's not always increasing. And eventually it will go higher to the to level 10. And if you start making mistakes, the level will drop. And at the end of the test, they will average your correct answers, average the difficulty level of your correct answer and incorrect answer, and give you a score. There is an algorithm. No one knows what the exact algorithm is, but your score will be between the average difficulty level of your right answers and wrong answers. So if your first question is 5 difficulty level, and you get the first one and second one and third one wrong, you will drop down to the level 2 or 3, and you start getting a lot of questions that are level 2 or 3. So even if you get 100% of them right, at the end, it doesn't it doesn't help your score that much. And I showed you an ESR to verify that. Remember that person with 50% right in the first quarter, and then got 100% right in the last quarter, but his score was only 34 out of 51. So that's what adaptive means. GRE test is not adaptive by question, it's adaptive by section. So instead of increasing the difficulty level after every single question, the GRE test will give you a fixed set of questions for the first section. Everyone gets the same 20 questions, and if you get those 17 of those right, you will get harder questions in the second section. Obviously, if you get all 20 right, you will get even harder questions. And if you get only 10 out of 20, you will get easier questions. And it's in your interest to try to get hard questions, because hard questions are worth more points. So that's what adaptive by section and adaptive by question means.
Thank you, Tara sir. Other question is, will you be sharing the PPT? If there are students who would like to have a copy of the PPT, just write to us at info@aci.edu.np, and we will share you the copy of this presentation. We might have to edit few things, but we'll have that PPT shared with you. So next question is from a student who says, how many practice tests should one give before they appear for the final exam, and where can they find free mock tests for GMAT and GRE?
Okay, well, there's no magic number, but if you are a really motivated student and if you really want to get a 650 plus score, then I would say 8. If you don't have time for 8, then definitely at least 6. And I understand, because most of the MBA applicants and GMAT test takers are full-time workers, sometimes even have family and children. So it's something that you have to balance with your life. But if you take 8 tests, then you will have some advantage over other students. I remember I said it's like it's a competition against other test takers. So you want to do anything that you can do that most people are not doing. And there are many easy ways to get free practice tests. You get 2 for free from the mba.com website, which will be the collection of official retired test questions from the past. But you can get a free test from each of the test prep companies in the US: Manhattan, Kaplan, Veritas Prep, Princeton Review. So that's already 6, right? And there are so many other free tests from Magoos and gmatclub.com. You know, I can probably give you 100 for free if you're really interested, but there will be like 10 that are very popular. And there have also been articles linking to all of the free tests on the internet. If someone actually asks for that, I'll be happy to share that in the near future.
Now, there's another question, although so the question is, what is a good GMAT or a GRE score? Higher the better, but the student would like to know what is a good GMAT score or GRE score to get into good universities.
Okay, I can definitely tell you that for the top 7 M7 business schools, and if you're curious, it's Harvard, Stanford, MIT, University of Chicago, Northwestern, Columbia, and what was the 7th one? Okay, yeah, I don't know which one I said, but there are 7, and for them, definitely a score of at least a 700 is minimum. And it doesn't matter if you are not very strong with your verbal. You can get a higher, let's say you can get 50 out of 51 in the quant section and maybe 37 or 35 in the verbal. That will still give you a 700. If your verbal is really strong, you can get 40 in the verbal and 47 in the quant. That will still give you a 700. So there are many ways to mix and match your verbal and quant to get the same 700 score. For the top 7 business schools is 700, but for many other business schools, 650 is a very good score. And if you are happy with an average or slightly above average business school, then a 600 is an okay score. So in the context of international students, I think a 650 is a very good score, 700 is an excellent score, 600 is a good score, and 550 is an average score. 550, by the way, it's increasing every year because of Chinese students, and this is a true fact. Chinese students have been increasing the average score every year by a few points. So right now the average may be 557 or something. For the GRE, the boundary between an okay score and a good score is 160 in the verbal and 160 in the quant. So again, if you are international, well, since you are international, and we all know for you the good score boundary may be lower to 155 for the verbal and 163 for the quant. So higher expectations in the quant section, lower in the verbal. So this is for top schools. For average and slightly above average universities, your boundary may be 300, 150 quant, 150 verbal. So if you get a 300, you qualify for a lot of schools, maybe not for the top schools, but for many schools.
Thank you, Tara sir. There are a few questions regarding the classes, which I'll just try to merge it together. The full-fledged class, how long would the class be in terms of number of hours and number of days? The second question relating to the to the class is, would you be sharing more tricks and trips? And there's another question, tell me more about the class. So if you can just help student to understand how a typical class, let's say a tenure of GRE, GMAT would look like if they do attend a full class.
Yes, first of all, there will be a lot of tips and tricks. There will be at least a dozen tips and tricks in every single class. Maybe not a dozen every single time, but there will be plenty in every single class pertaining to every single topic on the content, the verbal, and the full length. So our current plan is to have very condensed 60 hours of lessons for the GMAT and the GRE each. And I just want to let you know that our classes will be very condensed. In other words, in 1 hour we will cover a lot, and our 60 hours will not include the time when you will be taking mock lessons and just practice exams and mock lesson and practice exam. It's the same thing, but what I mean by that is simulated computer-based exams and practice tests in your spare time. So excluding those things, 60 very condensed lessons is that's our current plan. It can change a little bit depending on our discussion in the future, but that's the current plan. But yeah, about the tips and tricks, I haven't counted, but there will be more than 200 tips and tricks for both of the tests.
Thank you, Tara. So, and in respect to when will the class start and what's the cost of? So it would depending on how many students would actually enroll for the program, and based on a mutual understanding with Tara sir, a date would be decided and then communicated mutually with the students as well, and the cost would also be communicated to the students. But please be rest assured, it will be pretty much in line with the market practices. The other question that's come from a student related to tricks and tips is, if there are so many tricks and tips, how do you know which one to use when? So I would say practice, but still, if you have any short or precise answer to this question, when to use what tricks? How do you know?
So the tips and tricks are like it's almost like insurance. You buy insurance, but you don't always use it, right? So you keep all of these tools in your pocket. With experience, you will know when to use which trick. You will not be able to use every single of them in one exam, and I will obviously train you to recognize the question and get a red flag to, there will be a certain reminder. Okay, if you see this keyword, then expect to use this kind of trick. And also always ask the question. When you see a question, I'll be teaching you a lot of alternative methods. Whenever you see a question, ask yourself, can I do this, and scan that very quickly in your head within 10 seconds. So there will be enough training for you to know when to use the tips and tricks and whether to use the tips and tricks. That's not something I can answer in a minute or two.
Thank you, Tara. There's another question. I understand there are students who are actually in second year and third year, and they still haven't graduated. They'll graduate after 2 years. And some students have said they had a very weak with verbals. Some students have said, I have not taken maths as a subject during their high school, or probably they were A-level students, so they decided not to take maths. So for those students, what do we recommend is the question. So let me just try and address this initially. If you are a second year or third year students, as we've been mentioning, GMAT or GRE is not a sprint. It's not something that you can do it in a couple of months and then appear for. right? So it's very important that you start creating the foundation for it. And since the validity of GMAT and GRE is for 5 years, even if you give your GMAT GRE much earlier, you can still use the score for pretty much 5 years. So we would always encourage the students to start working on the GMAT and GRE much earlier than later, right? And the question to Tara sir is, in case if they have a weak in verbal, if they have not taken maths, should they not, I mean, would they be very, very difficult for them to do GMAT or GRE, or is there a way because they'll be learning tips and tricks from?
Yes, so yeah, I'll answer that question in two parts. First of all, if someone is really weak in the math, by weak I mean much below average, then I recommend that they start researching the math topics tested on the GRE or the GMAT and start studying on their own as soon as possible. Because if our classes are, as I said, our classes assume a certain position from you, and obviously if we get a lot of requests, we will divide the classes into multiple different levels and target scores. But if we have one class in which there are students for many levels, which we will try to prevent as much as possible. But if you are in a class and the class is going too fast for you, and if you can foresee that, maybe do some preparation on your own, read some books, watch some videos, maybe start. So that maybe the first thing to do is how to start preparing for the GMAT. So look for the video and watch that video, and the video will give you some ideas, because on a 1 or 2 hour seminar I can only give you so many ideas, right? So the video, or read a good article. There's a good website for GMAT, gmatclub.com, gmatclub.com, and similarly for the GRE, there's greprepclub.com, greprepclub.com. These two are the most popular. There are so many others, and if you browse those websites, they'll give you a lot of tips to, or you can even Google a question. If I'm getting, let's say, a 400 in my practice test, how do I improve my score? And they will give you a good plan to start working on your weaknesses before you take a coaching class, right? So there will be a lot of ways to improve your situation. So one thing that I definitely want you to do starting today is be self-motivated and start looking for things, Googling things on your own. Hopefully that helped. I gave you a roundabout answer, but
Thank you, Tara sir. And just for students who are in their very early years and just trying to create the base, as a GMAT student myself, I would one recommendation that I got, if your verbal is very weak, is start reading a lot and start reading uninteresting things, like things that does not interest you. Start reading that, because it will help improve your vocab, will help you do a very intuitive thinking in terms of while doing sentence correction. So I think reading habit, I think if you can create that much earlier, it will really help you. I have not given GRE, but personally, when I gave GMAT, I think that helped me a lot. So probably that's a very personal advice from my end. So moving on, there's a question to Tara. So there was the name of a book that you referred, is what I understand, when you were solving the question for the verbal. One of the students has asked, can you repeat the name of the book that you referred to?
okay, so the name of the company that sells the books or the test prep classes is called Manhattan, MANHATTAN, Manhattan Prep. Okay, so Manhattan has 3 verbal books. One is for sentence correction, critical listening, and reading comprehension. So you can, if you don't, I mean, I don't recommend anyone. I cannot tell you where to find the books. Where to download them free for legal reasons, but there are many ways to get these books for free. So you can, ask your friends or do your own research on that. So the name of the book is Manhattan Sentence Correction. That book will train you how to prepare yourself for sentence correction questions in detail. So, with a tutor or a high-skilled trainer, you may get 30 hours, but you can spend 100 hours on this book, or not even, maybe 50 hours, maybe more than enough.
Thank you.
So that was one book. Yeah.
Sorry. So are you done, sir? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'll be taking three or four more questions, and I think there are a few more questions that just popped into my screen. But I'll try and answer that very quickly as well, which relates at our end. So there's a question that for Master of International Relation is what you wanted to study, and whether you would require GRE or not, right? So the short answer to that is it depends on the university that you apply to. So there are many universities in the US who does not require GRE, but they would not be a top-ranked universities. But let's say, for example, if you talk about New York University, their Masters of International Relation requires a GRE as a prerequisite. So it'll typically depend on your university selection that you will do. The second question that's come in, I'm planning to do PhD. What should I be doing? GMAT, GRE, or SAT? SAT is out of the question. SAT is only for undergrad program. For PhD, go to university, require either of GRE or GMAT. If it's more on the business side PhD that you're looking for, then they would demand for GMAT. They may also accept GRE, but for other general beside business related PhD program, they would request for GMAT, for GMAT, right? So hopefully that answers your question. There's another question, Tara sir. The students have asked, how much time should one spend to excel in GMAT and GRE?
Again, there's no magic number. I cannot really give you any answer. That's like asking how many milligrams of paracetamol should I take if I have a headache. It really depends on how much headache you have and how soon you want to get well, right? So I really have to get to know the student, but I can give you the average. The average is about 3 to 5 months. So 3 months is the minimum, even for a highly motivated and dedicated student with good aptitude. But some people need up to 5 months. I mean, there have been people who have been preparing for a year already and they haven't even taken the test yet. But not to scare you, because not everyone needs that big of a timeline. The average may be about 4 months.
Thank you, sir. There's another question. Which answer I think is no. Can you give test online? I think the answer is yes, right, sir?
Yes, but I have to warn you that for the GMAT, you cannot use a pen and a paper. So on the math section, it may be very challenging to do your work. On the GRE, they are allowing the pen and a paper. I think that's what I heard. You can double check, but I'm positive they are allowing GMAT the pen and a paper. They will make sure that they will have some requirements on your technology and other requirements to prevent cheating. So they want to make sure no one can cheat, no one can film those questions and make them public. So there will be a lot of requirements. You can check the list, and if you meet all those conditions, you are free to take them from home. I don't recommend, if anyone is thinking about loopholes, there will be no loopholes, and if you get caught, you may be banned from taking the test for life. So this, again, I give this warning even to my current American students. So please meet those conditions and make sure you can meet those conditions before you can take the test from home.
Thank you, Tara. So there were a set of questions more related to the process that ACI follows. So I'll just take 2 minutes of time just to explain how we will work with the students and in terms of test preparation and so on and so. So when a students enroll for a guidance counseling with us, before we start recommending whether you should do GMAT, GRE, or whatever test preparation, it's very important for us to assess what you want to do. So we spend a lot of time with the student first to figure out what your area of interest is, when are you graduating, what's your current academic performance is like, what is your current profile like, and what's your area of interest, which country you're interested in, do you have any friends and family, are you trying to go there for a reason for studies and come back, are you going there for PR reasons? So we analyze everything. Based on that, the second phase is we help you shortlist what do you want to study, right? And once we figure out what you want to study, then we figure out where do you want to study in terms of countries. Once we shortlisted the countries, then we figure out the university that matches you. When we give you the university recommendation, we usually put it into 3 slots. One is your dream college, one is your strategic fit, and one is a safety net. In most of the cases, the strategic fit and the dream college are the ones who would require GMAT, GRE, or SAT requirement. And usually the safety nets, which are very easy to get into, are the ones who might not require GMAT and GRE. And based on that, we would create a program for you in terms of what you should start working when, and based on that, we will advise you suitably in terms of the timelines and how you should start preparing. And we always encourage our students to take a mock exam in the very beginning, the first mock exam, just to understand the level. Based on your current level, we recommend you how intensely, how should you get into your test preparation. That's just a process that we wanted to mention. There's a last minute question that has come in, which I'll see if you can answer that. But if you're not, we will try and answer that separately to you. So what is the difference between GRE subjects exam, general GRE tests like GRE psychology, GRE biochemistry? I do not know whether I understand your question right, but Tara sir, let me read that question for you in case if you're able to address it. What is the difference between GRE subject exam and general GRE tests like GRE psychology and biochemistry?
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. He or she is talking about. GRE subject tests are taken by students who want to make their profile or their application extremely strong, especially students who are applying for Ivy League and top 15 programs. And some of them, I don't know any university who require for the subject test, but a lot of them have subject tests as optional. And it's definitely something that you can take in order to prove yourself as a qualified candidate. But I only taught for the GRE math subject exam. Well, there's GRE subject math, there's subject biology, there's one subject GRE exam for every discipline. So I don't know much about biochemistry and psychology, but I'm pretty sure they will be asking questions only about psychology and biochemistry, and no English, no math, no verbal skills, no reading skills, just only skills based on that subject.
Okay, thank you, Tara sir. I think that brings us, I think, right on time. We're just 5 minutes and we are earlier than the scheduled time. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the students who have shown an active participation. We have had more than 80 students today who participated in this and we still have a little over 72 left still at the end, so which is good. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everyone, and hopefully we made this 2 hours count for you, and hopefully we'll be able to help you with your study abroad dreams as well as your test preparation. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sushant, for the final word of thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. So if you still have any questions about about me in general, or if you want to get to know me better and hear about my experiences, we already told you can visit my website www.thestartutor.com, and you can also visit the ACIE.edu.np website to learn more about our institution, ACIE. And before, when someone asked me about the book I recommended, I also wanted to add, and I forgot, that we provide you material when you sign up for our classes. So the Manhattan book that I mentioned will be part of our curriculum when you join.
Okay, thank you, Tara sir. Thank you so much, Savin sir. Thank you so much, Tara sir, for this wonderful presentation. And as rightly said by Savin sir, the audience, I mean, all the attendees, you've been so wonderful. You've been so participative. You participated in our pop quiz. There's so many questions asked by you. I would like to thank all of you for attending this webinar titled Understanding GMAT and GRE. Goodbye and good evening to you all. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.